Welcome everyone to the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum's live web series, The Future of Apprenticeship in Canada. My name is Racine DeBartolo and I will be your host today. As part of our 2016 conference, we had a session on the future of apprenticeship in Canada, where we discussed some of the big and pressing issues regarding apprenticeship in our country. Over 300 stakeholders from across Canada attended the session, and based on their experiences, they discussed their challenges and shared their best practices and ideas for future action. At that event, we discussed 8 key themes in apprenticeship, and the group agreed that these were the core issues and some of our main challenges and areas that we wanted to work on within apprenticeship. You can see the 8 topics listed on your screen, but today we will be focusing on welcoming workplaces. So we just wanted to start with to give you a bit of background on what we heard from the session last June, and stakeholders identified some of the primary challenges around diversity and inclusion. The first was the struggle to secure an employer sponsor. So stakeholders talked about limited marketing of careers in the skilled trades and job opportunities to diverse groups. And additionally, there wasn't enough promotion in high school. Employers talked about that some employers have a fear based on one bad experience and lack of understanding or have limited resources in order to integrate underrepresented groups into their workplace. Stakeholders also talked about underrepresented groups feeling isolation in the workplace. So women, Aboriginal, and other diverse apprentices, they may lack mentors and co-workers like themselves, and this can make it difficult to reflect on their experiences and gain perspective when challenges arise. They also reported that workplaces are not necessarily welcoming to diverse groups, and bullying, harassment, and exclusion are common barriers that impair retention. Reports show that underrepresented groups are more likely to discontinue their apprenticeship due to workplace problems such as harassment and discrimination. So stakeholders talked about, having unprepared workplaces, and they reported common challenges such as lack of leadership, infrastructure, and support for diverse groups such as language training and effective communication. So stakeholders also shared some of their best practices and what they're doing in their area or their province to create a diverse and inclusive workplace. So they discussed the importance of preparing their workplace, using inclusive signage when recruiting, not only with inclusive photos, but also thinking about placement to ensure diverse groups will see the actual signage. Using signage within the workplace was also important and illustrating diverse groups working together. They talked about preparing managers, forepersons, and contractors for diverse groups coming into the workplace and offering cultural sensitivity training when required. Stakeholders talked about educating staff on specific topics such as human rights and bullying, but they also talked about outlining anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies and disciplinary actions for not adhering to these policies. They also suggested offering a course to all apprentices about soft skills, specifically regarding communication with colleagues and diversity. Stakeholders discussed that one of the key parts of success was aligning the apprentice with a mentor who would be a good fit, and being clear with the journey person about what is expected of them as a mentor. Instilling a duty to mentor and inspiring senior apprentices to engage in mentoring new apprentices and making them feel welcome. When they become journey persons, these apprentices will understand the concepts of inclusivity and acceptance on the job site. Stakeholders told us it wasn't just a matter of hiring underrepresented groups and hoping for the best, but that they had to foster the success of their new apprentices. And some of the actions that they took were holding an orientation session and outlining what is expected of the apprentice. So, for example, one employer we spoke with asked apprentices to sign a contract with the company that outlines expectations, and this is outside of their regular apprentice agreement with the jurisdiction. The apprentice would review and sign this contract, and this would help instill a sense of accountability and responsibility over their apprenticeship. Stakeholders talked about the best practice of identifying a work buddy. So this is for new individuals starting work and someone to help them learn the ropes and feel comfortable. They also talked about assigning a designated person for the apprentices to report to so that the concerns of the apprentice are heard and the apprentice can voice those concerns in a manner that they feel comfortable. And ensuring that there's also resolution mechanisms in place for issues when they do arise. Stakeholders lastly talked about the importance of positive reinforcement. So for example, having mentoring awards for the journey persons and also rewarding apprentices when they reach key milestones. So for example, one employer offered financial incentives for apprentices who were completing their technical training. Stakeholders discuss the importance to identify leaders, either inside or outside the organization, who can support employers and diverse apprentices. Having equity integration committee with members from all groups involved in the workplace, and these committees play a key role, especially for large industrial projects. They talked about having benefit and diversity agreements with accountability and protocols that are followed and enforced. Many small companies need support to better understand this issue. So stakeholders talked about engaging chambers of commerce to help educate small to medium-sized businesses on the concept of welcoming workplaces, and also the importance of really getting together face-to-face to address issues and identify the best practices and supports in your area. And this is very beneficial for employers who need to make changes to be more welcoming and accepting of underrepresented groups. They also suggested to reach out to local women's groups, Aboriginal organizations, and immigrant serving agencies who may offer workshops and provide supports. But the most important thing was to remember that leadership is required at all levels to ensure leaders come from multiple groups, including unions, government, industry, and colleges. So that was just a bit of brief background on some of the challenges and best practices of hiring underrepresented groups that we heard from the conference. But today I'm really pleased to welcome our guest presenter, Lori Leach from Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor at the Government of New Brunswick. Lori will be sharing their experiences in increasing the participation of Indigenous apprentices in apprenticeship. So welcome, Lori.
Great, thank you very much. So just the outline for the presentation very quickly. I'll provide a bit of background about the project that we have underwent successfully, the key partners involved, program phases, the impact on the program, especially in terms of the individuals involved, best practices taken from the experience, as well as lessons learned. Okay, so first with a bit of a background. We had an opportunity to engage with First Nations community after having been contacted by a not-for-profit Aboriginal organization within our province who we have a very good working relationship with already. And this First Nations community had a grand idea where they wanted to use infrastructure funds that they are provided annually to go towards the renovation of a band hall, large building in the community. And so they knew that they wanted to involve it. Of course, renovations meant trades, so they contacted Apprenticeship, and we built a partnership together with our stakeholders to look at how could we actually do something that would be building strengths within the community as opposed to the community remaining dependent on outside strengths. So what we actually looked at doing was training people who were interested in the carpentry trade but did not have necessarily the experience or certainly any certification, training them to become apprentices in a design sort of customized program where they would actually work on and renovate the building there in their community. And that was pretty amazing for all who was involved, especially for the community themselves, to actually have that fantastic sense of pride because the band hall was sort of the central part of the whole community, and so everybody could watch as the whole thing progressed. So this is a picture of the band hall as renovations were just beginning, and you see participants in the background there with all their proper safety gear. They had to strip off old siding first. They put in all new windows and re-sided the building, and did some other renovations as well around doors and whatnot during the process. So in terms of our key partners, we had, as I said, the actual band council was the employer of the apprentices, and that was through a program that they run annually where they do renovations and restorations within the community during the summer season. And ourselves as the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor, specifically that meant the apprenticeship branch, which is where I come from, and also the Adult Education and Employment Division. We work very closely with this division for a lot of projects for training and support dollars for initiatives. When I spoke about there being a not-for-profit Aboriginal organization as well, that's JEDI, the Joint Economic Development Initiative organization, and we also worked with two of our community colleges, CCMB and NBCC here in New Brunswick, and they each delivered a phase of the training, which I'll speak about. So phase one, because the dialogues began sort of in late spring for this project, and summer was upon us very quickly with the program starting in June, it was imperative that we get to the work outside immediately if we were going to utilize the high season for construction. So we decided to take a direct entry approach where we would register our participants as apprentices immediately upon employment with the band under the program. The program for that direct entry on-the-job training was 12 weeks. There were 11 male and 1 female who were employed for the summer renovation program. And we also were very fortunate enough to be able to utilize 3 community members who were Aboriginal and also who were already Red CO certified as carpenters. So what a wonderful model where we could actually have the role models being community members who were mentoring the apprentices, and we utilized a ratio of, I believe it was 3 to 1 for that. I can't tell you how excited everybody was, the participants were, the day that we had our training officer from employment go and do the photos and provide them all with their registered apprenticeship identification cards. That sense of belonging and that sense of, you know, this exciting new career and engaging in something, it was quite wonderful to experience. So for the phase one, we recognized from having done projects like this in the past that we needed to ensure that we had the proper supports in place. Critical to that was essential skills assessment. We have in New Brunswick a mandatory essential skills assessment for all registered apprentices, and this has provided us with sort of a red flag at the early stage of registration so that we can engage necessary interventions during the learning phases and for exam accommodations well in advance to hopefully encourage our participants or our apprentices to be successful. We also included the mandatory safety training necessary for any on-the-job construction work. We provided the safety equipment and clothing, etc., that went along with that through our training and support dollars. We also recognize in dealing just with our population of apprentices that many apprentices come into the trades because they are considered not academic material, and sort of from high school we're filtered into apprenticeship. And although we understand that this is a definite myth, we are left with a population of apprentices who may have not secured all of the essential skills necessary in high school to be successful in a post-secondary program, and many of those slip through the cracks in terms of getting any kind of LD assessment. so we also encouraged LD assessments for anybody who was willing to partake, to ensure that, again, we could provide maximum supports for any learning or exam accommodations. So as I said already, the clothing was provided, so were tools. We ensured that everybody had sort of a package of tools to start this project with. So that included a tape measure, levels, their tool belt, their gloves, a square, basic tools for the construction trade. And then we also worked with industry, who provided us with some really nice saws and electric tools that actually stayed with we developed kind of a mobile package of tools, or toolbox of tools, that we can take to various other programs as we roll them out. So these tools were lent to this program, but ultimately stayed with the apprenticeship program. Individual counseling, critical. Individual counseling was provided by the apprenticeship staff. It's a system that we have here in New Brunswick. We have a training counselor who gets assigned to every apprentice. But we also had an employment counselor, and we had a learning strategist. So 3 people, all assigned to these individuals, met with them individually and tracked them throughout their experience, to ensure that they had the support that we feel they needed, and that hopefully they felt was beneficial to them as well. A customized weekly schedule to accommodate community practice. And what that line means is, with the particular First Nations community with which we worked, they operated off of a 4-day work week and not a 5-day work week. And so because the construction and the program for the direct entry apprenticeship was in community, we felt it was imperative to respect that cultural value as well. So we operated the program on a 4-day work week. So this is a picture of the building upon completion. Nice and tidy. It was very well done, and what a wonderful sense of pride for the community. The next phase, phase 2 of this program, began in September. It was a 24-week phase. And what we did here was basically it's a getting ready for block 1. So we wanted to ensure that everybody had the essential skills necessary. And then we designed a special sort of pre-employment training program that would provide them with all the introduction to carpentry required in terms of theory that would be in any pre-employment program, as well as the essential skills and the applied learning relevant to that material. So much of that learning was customized in a hands-on way, as opposed to it being sitting at a desk 4 days a week, recognizing that different learning styles, people learn different ways, and for this group, being active and being able to engage through through learning worked especially well. We utilized the Essential Skills program called WES, Workplace Essential Skills, that we provide here in New Brunswick through our department. And it's a program that is offered free to any community organization, project, or business place that wishes that type of training employment. So our partner with the pre-employment phase, with this 24-week phase, was CCNB. It's our francophone counterpart. They do customized training in English and French. So that was our partner in that particular piece. And interestingly, JEDI provided wage subsidy for those who did not qualify for EI. So as you know, working in apprenticeship, I'm sure folks are on the phone, that when somebody goes into training, usually they have reachback or EI, which will enable them to maintain some form of income during that type of training. So in this case, when that did not happen, or not enough hours were accumulated for our participants, then we did have the Aboriginal Association providing wage subsidy, which the participants really expected to happen. So that was great that could happen. And learning styles, as I've talked about already, sort of really being open in how we provided materials, lots of visuals, lots of hands-on and trying to get away from traditional types of learning. Phase 3 this is now the block 1, not the regular 8-week block 1 that we would offer for carpentry, rather a 12-week program, so that we could integrate a little bit more of essential skills in that to ensure that everybody was where they needed to be to have the best chance of success. So this is interesting because we did the pre-employment phase 1 was actually done in the community. So that hands-on and class time component was in that 4-day work week and within the community. But after the participants gained some confidence in their knowledge of the trade and had experience now under their belt, then they were a little bit keen about sort of going to college, feeling like they were really belonging in the post-secondary institute, if you will. So while we still did a customized program, we did it within the college setting. So that worked very well for us. And again, we respected the 4-day-a-week program. We again provided wage subsidy for that component, understanding that income is critical to the participants for basic survival. Everybody has bills to pay. We did also provide learner support in the form of a tutor to assist with the participants on top of the different instructors that we had. And we would have, we had an apprenticeship staff person who was also a safety trained provider, so providing the safety training again. We had a mentor carpenter from NBCC, longtime instructor, one of the best we could have, excellent, as well as an essential skills coach and language trainer involved as instructors. And as always, and as we would do with any apprentice, we had exam accommodations that are offered as part of our program. And for this particular clientele, every participant utilized some form of exam accommodation. So the next phase after the block 1 was actually getting them out to gain more apprenticeable hours. Participants continued to collect hours in the trade through summer employment the following year. Those who were not successful were provided with opportunities to rewrite if they chose, and provided learning supports again to do that. For those who continued not to continue, who decided not to continue with this program, we again paired them up with the employment counselor and employment branch to help them work through what they might be interested in and help them on that pathway. So nobody got left behind. So in terms of impact, as I said, the program began in June. Phase 1 began with 12 participants, and we ended up with 11 finishing phase 1. That was the first summer of employment on community. Phase 2, so the pre-employment, customized pre-employment, 11 started in September and 8 completed. And really, the reasons for this were around really low literacy skills, a lack of attendance in terms of gaining enough knowledge to actually move forward, or whether or not they were actually committed to that as a career. So for the customized block 1, we actually had 7 who completed the training and 4 who chose to carry on. So from the beginning of 12, we're now down to 4. Of those 4, 2 were successful on the first attempt with the block 1. 1 was successful on the second writing with accommodations, and after having a couple of more months of private tutoring. And 1 attended block 1 but was not successful on the exam. He's yet to rewrite. However, he has been during this entire time gainfully employed as a carpenter, so still working in the trade and still gaining employment through the on-the-job experience. So impact for phase 4, that's on the job, that would be now this summer. 4 remaining as registered apprentices and all remaining in the trade. 2 are hired by the band office, so again, the restoration or renovation program offered within the community. And 2 are hired outside with completely independent firms, construction firms. So we see that as great success. Then moving onward beyond a phase 4 for this, we see that the ones that we have remaining, we have 4 remaining. 2 are now currently enrolled in block 2. Isn't that exciting? The other 2 continue to work in the trade, and all 4 are really enjoying the work and are now assimilated into our regular apprenticeship program. So we do check in on them. We have our training counselor who contacts them on a regular basis as they would with any apprentice, and we will provide any supports necessary for training or for exam accommodations as we would with any apprentice. So best practices taken away from this. It's really important. What we've learned is with this clientele, we have to determine who is generally interested in the trade, and I think we would have secured more people or maintained more people in the program if we had a better sense of truly carpentry was what they wanted to do. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get into it, and that's fine. But we were told by our band office employer and by JEDI, Aboriginal organization, that unfortunately, because we provide programs so frequently, we government, we larger society, provide these short-term programs for First Nations communities that becomes a sense of employment in and of itself, that there comes to be that dependency or expectation that, oh, it's just another program for more employment, as opposed to really trying to build a career. So really doing this not for the short-term gain of an employment program, but the long-term gain of actually building a career. Creating a steering committee made up of community and outside partners who work collaboratively to frame the project from the beginning to the end and any financial decisions that are made. So we also learned from this project, it was fantastic to have all of the partners that we had. However, in this case, there was summer elections.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
To move smoothly through the program, ensuring that we were making necessarily the right decisions all of the time, and not a decision that had any political connection attributed to it. Innovation, we think this is a really innovative project, and we thank the Band Council for that, for having the idea about utilizing a building that was actually within the community, for utilizing the expertise within the community, and for building, and even if it is for only 4 who are remaining with the program still, 4 careers, real careers in skilled trades. And and now these the 2 gentlemen who continue with the program are halfway through. Making essential skills assessment mandatory for all. We just think this is just a wonderful opportunity for engaging early on in any potential issues that somebody may have with learning or with taking exams. And we know from our research that we have done with our ESA, our Essential Skills Assessment, that it does in fact work, and we have measured those results now and have shared those with other provinces. We've learned that including Aboriginal trainers is a great idea, because it's always good to see that role model provided in the community, but they must hold the same accountability practices as we would expect from any journey person. And this is a message that we received from the participants, because unfortunately not all of the Red Seal carpenters who were from the community necessarily provided the best role model in terms of attendance and engagement in the project as we would have liked. So the message that we got from our participants is that to have somebody engaged, regardless of where they come from, somebody engaged, a mentor who is really there for them and engaged with them in their progress is more important than having necessarily a role model from the community if in fact the engagement is lacking. Other cultural sensitivity in terms of flexibility during the training, and this is interesting because what we discovered and what we talked with the members about as well, the apprentices, was while the program was in community or while it was the in-class and shop training, we could accommodate the cultural sensitivity of the 4-day work week. But how did they feel about the flexibility of working a 5-day work week if in fact they were going to look for a job off of the community? And that the expectation of other contractors would be that they'd be working not only 5-day work weeks, but quite frankly, long 5-day work weeks in the summer, and maybe even some 6-day work weeks with some companies. So we had to introduce that and ensure that whatever decision they chose around employment, they went into that decision with the best of knowledge and available for them. So best practices: customized Block 1 training to provide a safe place for learning while providing real college experience. So we modified it from an 8 to a 12-week. We had much more hands-on and more instructors than we maybe would in a normal block. But at the same time, while doing that, do in fact engage with the real experience of going to college. I can't tell you how elated the participants were in actually being able to say they were in college, you know, and having that experience while still sort of providing a bit of a safety net for them for the learning. Hold customized theory training in an educational institute, that's what I just talked about. Wage subsidy should be administered by an organization outside of the community. And this is what we learned from our experience, because you don't know what might be coming up. We experienced the elections, which did cause a few bumps for us. And so for the other phase where we were able to have JEDI actually providing the wage subsidy, there was much more accountability associated with attendance and an Aboriginal organization be able to talk to Aboriginal members about both attendance and about the pay or the wage subsidy that they were getting. And of course, it's always great to share best practices. Hopefully, some people can take away some things that can be replicated in other jurisdictions. So in terms of the overall lessons learned from this project, and we are engaged in discussions with the community to roll out another one very similar in another First Nation community currently. Number one, behavioral shift is required. So around what hours of operation mean, around hours in a day, and expectations in terms of attendance, both in class and in the working world. And attendance should be mandatory and docked. This is not a message that comes from us. This is a message that comes from our partners and the participants themselves. Participants themselves were discouraged by other members' attendance or lack of attendance, and that they may be continue to get wage subsidy when they weren't coming, et cetera, this sort of thing. So really being clear on those lines, we've learned is really in the best interest of everybody, and really what the participants themselves expect. And holding participants accountable for their attendance, you know, and if they're not going to be able to be there, then to have an excuse, to be able to address that ahead of time with their employer or with their trainer. And certainly, and this is not new news, but it is reiterated every time we do a program, any program is only as good as the trainers. So it's the quality of the people you bring out will produce the quality of the people that enter and exit from the program. And we are so lucky to have so many fantastic trainers who are so engaged with alternative learning for us. Engagement and accountability from trainers and mentoring and journey persons is more important than their cultural identity from the participants' perspective. I've talked about that already. It was an interesting lesson for us to learn, and one that we certainly will take away. Design the program with the seasons and culture in mind. So when we started the program in early June, we had attendance issues because some participants were leaving to go pick fiddleheads. In New Brunswick, that's a major industry, and a lot of First Nations community members from this particular place were, that was what they did every year. You know, they went and they picked fiddleheads along the riverbanks. So we had to ensure that that was respected and that we would find ways to help them catch up and move on with the training program. And the other thing I spoke about was the 4-day work week, which we modified as well. Consistent individual advocacy and support is recommended throughout, and that means really checking in on an hourly, on a daily basis, depending on individual person's needs or skill sets. All right, so that's the basic presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Lori. That was a great presentation. Just before we leave, I did want to share some resources and tools with you that we have available at the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. So first, just some research and reports. We have a fantastic action plan for employers called Hiring and Retaining Aboriginal Apprentices. This is a free resource on our website, available in both English and French. So we definitely, if you haven't checked it out already, we do hope that you will go and download the report. We also have other resources for other underrepresented groups, including women, the business case for employers to hire and train women in the skilled trades. And we've hosted multiple events across the country regarding hiring and integrating underrepresented groups into the skilled trades. So if you do go on the website, you will see multiple resources, summary reports from those events, including Campbell River in British Columbia, Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, and actually just yesterday we held an event in Calgary talking about integrating newcomers to Canada into Alberta's apprenticeship system, and that summary report will be available shortly. We also suggest that you check out the CAF's YouTube channel. We've got some fabulous recorded webinars and presentations there for you to watch. If you go to the playlist Hiring and Retaining Aboriginal Apprentices, we've got some great webinars. We had guest presenters such as Unifor that gives great lessons on pursuing a welcoming workplace and provides tons of resources and ideas. We did have other organizations, Manitoba Hydro, talk to us about tapping into the Indigenous labor market, and they've seen fantastic success in their program. The Progressive Contractors Association of Canada provided a workshop on developing an Aboriginal inclusion strategy, and it's not posted yet, but we will have a presentation by the Gabriel Dumont Institute, another really successful program about increasing Aboriginal skills training and apprenticeship. We have just revamped our CAF website, so we encourage you to go check out the new website. Our Skills Trade Network is revamped. It looks great. And one of the things that we did when we upgraded the website was we started filtering our resources. So if you go to the Skilled Trades Network and you check out apprentice resources, both of our networking and financial support sections, you're actually able to go and filter either by province or by what type of resource that you were looking for. And we did this with underrepresented groups in mind to help them more easily identify supports and resources in their area. Also part of the Skilled Trades Network is our online forum. So if you go to, if you just see in the picture on the left there, the community support section, if you go to the community support section, you can join our online discussion. So I did post our first ever question up on our online forum today under the Welcoming Workplaces heading, talking about what are your experiences in creating a diverse and inclusive workplace. So I encourage everybody on today's webinar to go to the forum and keep the conversation going after today's webinar. That's how we share resources across the country, and that's how we hear about all these great programs. I am going to send that out to everybody via the chat link right now, so you should have that. So I do encourage you to check that out. So lastly, just before we finish up the webinar today, I did want to talk to you about some current projects and how you can get involved in some upcoming events that will be happening over 2017-2018. Our recruitment efforts are underway for the Apprentices in Canada e-panel. The first report as a result of the e-panel, Apprentice Attitudes Toward Learning and Examinations, is available to members on our website. The e-panel will allow us to better understand apprentice experiences across the country by surveying apprentices online. We do hope to learn more about the barriers apprentices experience so that targeted solutions can be developed and implemented. If you're interested in spreading the word to the apprentices in your network, please contact us following the webinar. CAP has just started a new project called Experiential Learning in the Skilled Trades, Best Practices for Engaging Indigenous Youth. So we're looking for examples of hands-on opportunities for Indigenous students in high school. So if you do know any projects or any programs like that across the country, we really would like to hear from you. Please contact Emily, our lead researcher, directly, or you can contact me after the webinar. We've got a really exciting year. We've got lots of upcoming events happening. We'll have the part 6 of our Future of Apprenticeship Canada web series on October 18th, and we'll be talking about technical training. Right after that, between October 25th and 27th, we're going to be hosting Innovations in Apprenticeship, a 2-day apprenticeship workshop. And this is really going to be focusing on does innovation support diversity and inclusion. It features sessions such as creating accessible training for Indigenous apprentices, a changing workplace industry perspectives, creating the workforce we want. The full agenda is available online. Again, I have also attached it as a handout on your webinar control panels. We only have about 20 registrations available left. So if you are interested in participating in that event in October, we definitely suggest that you sign up soon. On November 9th, we will be hosting our National Youth Conference, Perceptions of the Skilled Trades from Diverse Youth. So we'll be hosting about 100 youth from across Canada to participate in discussions to develop a national youth employment strategy. If you have any questions, you can contact us. On November 14th, we will have part 7 of our Future of Apprenticeship web series on career awareness. And Trent Schultz from the Nova Scotia Construction Sector Council will be talking about their exhibit hall and how they're engaging youth in learning about careers in the construction sector. And lastly, of course, we'd like you to save the date for our biennial conference from June 10 to 12, 2018, where we'll be headed to Montreal. We have launched our call for partners, exhibitors, and presenters, so please visit the website to learn more. For those of you who are interested in submitting a presentation abstract for the conference, the deadline for submissions is October 20th, 2017. So the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, we are a national non-for-profit organization working with stakeholders in all regions of Canada. We influence pan-Canadian apprenticeship strategies through research, discussion, and collaboration, sharing insights across trades, across sectors, and across the country to promote apprenticeship as an effective model for training and education.